Reality is like a film set. There are directors,
Action!
producers,
Are we on schedule?
and even actors.
Can somebody get me a coffee?
The trick is realizing that you are playing all of these roles. You are the executive producer of your reality. My name is Daniel,
My name is Lauren.
and we're here to break the fourth wall to discover what's behind the scenes. And what you hear just might have you saying, "That's so meta." Welcome everybody to That's So Meta, where we discuss the mystical, the magical, and the metaphysical. I'm your host, Daniel,
And I'm your host, Lauren.
and today we have a special guest. If you can or can't see, if you're just listening, look also. Take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. Did you look? You didn't. Look. Okay. This is our special guest, Natasha.
Hi.
Welcome to That's So Meta.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Super
yeah.
excited.
It's a fun discussional metaphysical podcast where we usually do like a topic episode, but we want to get more into having guests.
Mm-hmm.
And I never shut the furnace off. All good.
No. That's all right.
So I thought about having you on for a while because
I'm honored.
oh, awesome. When you and I met, I felt like we definitely resonated with each other in terms of our interests and the type of work that we do, the knowledge that we have. And I knew that you would just be a great person to talk to for a while.
Oh,
So-
well, I definitely feel the same way.
So Natasha is the owner of Lil Shop of Lilith. Okay. And we're going to have a link to all the social media and the website here on the video. But Lil Shop of Lilith is a really fun, sort of like a magic, metaphysical, sort of occult type of shop. Could you tell us about your brick and mortar, your physical location that people can actually go to?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was December 2021. My friend Brittany and I finally found a building that worked well for us. And we decided that we were going to take what we were doing at vendor shows and online and open it up to the public. So one of the big reasons that I had for wanting a physical space was that we were doing a lot of ritual work, and now we had a space that we could do that, like with people. The space is almost too small at this point.
Yeah.
We've had to rearrange a couple times.
I packed the place once.
You did. Yeah, and now we have all kinds of rituals done there and guest lectures like Daniel was able to come and do. And I do a lot of different energy work services there, mainly intuitive, as well as some spiritual counseling and mentorship opportunities and tarot readings.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
And you also have a lot of cool things to buy as well.
We have so much cool stuff to buy. It's always changing. I have about 9 different vendors that also share space with us. We're getting ready to, I can't even make the announcement yet, but we're getting ready to invite another one, and it'll be something different for us. So I'm really excited about that. But you can find all kinds of, my specialties like the ritual oils and different charms and amulets, but we have a ton of stuff that's
Awesome.
ever changing. So
So you just recently opened a lecture series where
Yes.
once a month you have a guest speaker come to talk about something that they're, well versed in, passionate about, knowledgeable, something within alignment to sort of like the mission statement of your physical shop. And so I was invited to speak because I'm a fucking weirdo.
that's what we love there. That's what we bring.
I talked about extraterrestrials, starseeds, densities, dimensions, and it was a really growing experience for me to be able to write a lecture. Like I physically wrote a 45-minute lecture to the best of my ability, and came out and gave a speech, to your awesome, amazing community. I think we had the maximum capacity. You were on the floor.
I was on the floor.
It was like 19 people, 18 people, I think were there. 18 people, I think, roughly.
You might have had a little more than that, to
Might
be
have been
honest.
more.
But
And people, if anybody else showed up, they would have had to have stood. So that was really exciting for me, not only to sort of like test my knowledge and give me an opportunity to speak and express myself on things that I'm passionate about, but also meet your amazing community and, break into sort of speaking, which I'd like to do more of. And I met a lot of really lovely people at your shop that have found me on social media afterwards, and I've, kept in touch with and added on Facebook, Instagram. So that was a really awesome experience. For those listening, if you're interested, we did film the program. I have the full hour-long lecture where you actually ask some questions in the Q&A.
Yes. Yeah. I guess the contrast between extraterrestrials and demonic beings.
That's right.
Is my question.
Yeah, and I would like actually for you to, in a sense, maybe talk a little bit more about the demonic work today on the show later on.
I was like, right now, right? This
No,
minute.
but I'll ask you a question. I mean, there are a lot of people that on my channel that watch my show that may or may not be know too much about that, or maybe have like misconceptions. So many like misconceptions. Maybe you can help us clear up, but we'll get to that later.
Absolutely.
So the next thing that I want to talk about is how we met and who we met through.
Okay.
Our mutual friend Garrett, aka Frater Crow,
Who we've had on the show.
who we've had on the show. You can go back and see his episode here. He and I have been friends for many years, and he told me that he wanted to quit speaking. He didn't want to do any live engagements, but that this last one he was going to do was going to be his like last, and then he was leaving like the public eye. And so I told him that, hey man, if you're going up there by yourself with all your gear and your table and stuff, I'd be happy to come help. Help you set up your table, help you sell stuff, so that you're not there by yourself. I mean, if I was going to go present somewhere, I'd love to have,
Extra
a
set of
partner.
hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he invited me to come with him, and I drove up with him, and just, we spent the day there together. And you and Brittany came to support, right?
Yes.
In a sense, check it out, vibe around, but he was speaking there. And so I met you at his table. We'd never met before. We didn't know of each other, but we had both been a mutual friend of his for almost like the same time. You might have known him for like a year longer. When did you meet Garrett?
Oh, we met about 8 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
When we were doing like music.
7 for me.
Yeah.
7 for me.
7
Oh,
or
because of
8.
music.
Yeah,
Like,
actually.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's another thing we'll talk about is your music. We'll get to
We
that.
can talk about that.
So I was there to help at the table and help vibes, the general vibes, right?
You did good with the vibes.
I helped the vibes up. And you guys were hanging around the table, vibing around, adding some more vibes.
My child was very interested in adding vibes to the box of lizards that was there.
Bones and
Yeah.
skeletons. And so I think you and I just started chatting. Like we were making jokes because he was fucking terrible at like selling anything and managing money. So I was like helping with that. And we got it done. We made the sale. And then from there, we were chatting. And I liked your vibes.
I liked your vibes.
Have I mentioned vibes enough times?
I
in the
think we need a new word.
last? So you mentioned that you had a shop.
Yeah.
And I was excited by that because I love to go anywhere that the crystals are sold and jewelry and things like that. And people offer services. And so I grabbed your card. We kept in touch. We started talking and we became friends like right away.
Yeah.
Right?
Because of vibes.
Because of the
The
vibes.
mutual vibes.
Yeah.
The mutual vibes were like this
Perfect.
in harmony. And no, you were like really easy to connect with, and we were fast friends, you and I.
I would agree with that.
And that's a testament to Garrett as well, because he keeps like a very small circle,
Yes.
very tight circle of people, and so the people in his immediate community, they're going to be, of a high caliber, person in a sense. One might even use the analogy like high vibe. I want to let the vibe thing go. We're going to leave it right there. If I mention it again.
It's going to happen again. I'm already calling it.
No, we were fast friends, and so I said I wanted to come see your shop, and vibe around. And so, eventually, I'm like super like scattered with my schedule. You're a mom and like a business owner
Yeah.
And a musician.
and a vibe expert and a musician, and we made it happen though.
Yeah.
So I came out and we vibed around. We had some pizza. Met Brittany. Brittany's awesome. And so we're just like fast friends, and I like to have people on the show that not only like share similar interests in terms of metaphysics, but somebody that does the type of work you do. Okay, so I want to talk a lot about like the services that you offer and the
Yeah.
skills that you have, because I have I do what I call spirit technology. That's my term for it. Anything that's like energy work, spiritual, metaphysical tools that we can do deliberately with training, or maybe we have innate abilities. Whether it's just like the clairs, all of the clairs, or if it's like, using divination tools and things like that. I'm into spirit tech. So you're somebody who has a lot of skills and experience using things like that in terms of like ritual and exercise.
Yes.
I'd love to learn a little bit about that.
Could always have more, but yes.
But you have a lot of cool stuff. Like people can physically come to your shop for these services. And, yeah. So I offer a couple things, some energy work that I do that I can do online, which about the spirit contact protocol for those who don't know. Natasha was in our commercial for the spirit contact protocol, and
I'm dead.
you're a ghost. You're dead. And I actually hadn't finished that commercial for like 4 months because I needed that one shot. And when you offered to be an actor in it, that was the missing puzzle piece. Like we finished it because of you.
I was like, I have children. I can bring you children.
Yeah. So you're actually the only reason I ever ended up finishing it and getting it out there.
Well.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
It was very cold, but you're welcome.
It was freezing that day.
It was, yeah.
And you were dressed in
ghost.
ghost.
It looked great for the ghost, but I was very cold.
Yeah. I remember that
You were
day.
a trooper too on set.
But I want to thank you for pushing me to get that finish and offering to be the actor in it, because I didn't know how to execute that scene or what I wanted it to look like.
Absolutely.
But it's a kid at a cemetery going to see, presumably a mom or type entity.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that was awesome. And David just loved doing it too. So
Yeah, that was really sweet. So we did that, and I hung out at your shop, and then you had me in to speak, which was amazing. And so another thing that, but we're friends now. That's what I was trying to say. We're friends now. Now
we're like
on my
this.
show.
Imagine if we weren't.
So, you're also a rock star, aren't you?
I mean, I'm a rock star sometimes if I have enough whiskey. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about your band.
So my band is named Animus, and we are local to Butler, PA, but we kind of play all over the place. We play in PA, in Ohio, I don't know if we've played in West Virginia. I might be confusing that with the shop, but the guys that are in my band are just really wonderful, and they're very laid back and don't put a lot of pressure on me to be anything other than what I am when I get on stage. So we have a lot of fun writing music together. Oh God, I almost said vibe. We vibe really well. I'm just gonna say it.
Right. You're allowed 1 or 2 for my 10.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's great. And to me, having the band really gives me a way of expressing a different side of my persona that is not, wife or mother or now,
shop owner.
Yeah, shop owner, local witch, devil woman, whatever they're calling me at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really great, and I love getting to do it. We just had a local show to Butler last weekend, and it was packed, so it was a really fun
awesome.
time.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
So I can resonate and relate to you being, a vocalist, front woman. And I grew up in metal bands. I've been the vocalist and a singer of metal bands since I was a teenager. And I was in like, deathcore, metalcore, breakdown bands. That was my thing. And some like new metal vibes
I love
in
the
there
new
too.
metal.
I love new metal. Like what are a couple of your favorite new metal bands? And you can go back to like the early 2000s.
Oh no. Well, see, listen, the problem is all that I can like respond to right now is Sleep Token, which
right.
I mean, we could
yeah.
we could try, we
could do an
put
episode
them-
about Sleep Token, by the way. If you haven't heard about them, go
Yeah, you need to.
Spotify,
Right now.
YouTube,
Yeah.
stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sleep Token.
Yeah.
But like, let's say old
Like
2000,
old school, like
when
I,
new metal like boomed in the late 90s, early 2000s.
like I was really big. I don't even know if you would classify it as Slipknot and Korn
Slipknot.
and all of
Yep.
really big on Slipknot. I remember my mom got me like this giant t-shirt when I was in like 7th grade, and it was Slipknot, and it was like down to my knees, but I felt really, really cool while I was wearing it. But yeah, no, those would probably be 2 of my top 2 from back then.
I'm from the era of like, okay, Deftones,
Deftones for sure.
Cold, Stained, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Breaking Benjamin.
Love Breaking Benjamin.
I said Mudvayne, Slipknot, Rammstein, you know, like
Yes.
bands from that era that used to tour together a lot, you know, like metal, but like new metal elements. Mainstream stuff was more of my taste. Like if it was on MTV, you know, I'm from that era. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 36.
I'm
so-
36.
Are you?
Wait, you're 37?
July 11th.
Okay, I got you in a couple months. I'll be 37 in March.
Okay.
Cool. So we're from the same, we were watching like MTV at the same time.
Yes.
So I got into metal and new metal first. And breakdown bands like metalcore and deathcore didn't exist yet from the era that I'm from in music. Like Godsmack, Korn, that's like that my history, right? But then you see these like metalcore and deathcore bands, which is its own genre, that came in around like 2003 to 2006 was like the wave of metalcore and deathcore breakdown bands. So what I resonated with traditional new metal, but also like really big into breakdown bands, I started like writing and forming music that merged both. So it was like new metal with breakdowns. And that's when I got into being like a metal singer.
Okay.
So I like sing and scream, and we had like melodic choruses and stuff. And I was in a band called Windfall for a couple years.
I like the name.
Windfall. And it didn't have anything to do with money, but it was like the windfall of, you know, our musical sort of like breaking into discovering ourselves musically.
Yeah.
So you could resonate as a musician and a singer that like music is its own level. It's its own frequency of self-expression.
Always.
Different to painting, art, you know, sculpting, filmmaking, whatever it is that people do that express themselves. When you're like using your voice to articulate your emotions and your energy, there's a different, it hits a different degree of depth of self-expression on an emotional, spiritual level for me, that like using film as a medium to, that's my way of communicating. Music is still the first thing that I ever did. Artistically, I started creatively writing music, writing songs in my bedroom, recording like shitty keyboard, like a fucking $90 pawn shop guitar on like a 8-track recorder. Like I've been writing music since I was 16, and it's the thing that above all else in terms of self-expression takes me out of myself and allows me to lead in a sense. So you can relate. So, and then from there over the years, I started writing and recording like my own metal solo. And then I tried to get a couple bands off the ground in New York that didn't last long, but I'm with you in terms of like playing music. And I'm almost in a sense a little envious that you're still in a band and can still perform live, because I miss it.
Yeah, it's not something that, no matter how busy I am, and you know, they threaten me that I can never like leave, like they'll, you know,
You are
kidnap me and keep me. But it like you said, it's that form of expression that you can't really express any other way than when you're writing the lyrics and then when you're up there, you know, performing them. So it's something I'll definitely hold on to for a while. It's very close to my heart.
I love that. And
Did you always feel drawn to it?
Yes. My dad was in bands when I was growing up, and his most recent band when I was growing up was called Love Riot in Baltimore.
cool.
So I would like fall asleep with my Walkman, like listening to Love Riot tapes, and like my friends and I, when we were like kids, would like do little like karaoke things without the karaoke, and I would sing like Love Riot songs. I wanted to be his lead singer. So
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah.
That's amazing. So you really grew up with that sort of motivation.
Yeah, it definitely was like I don't know. I always wanted to be a front woman, and now I've had the chance to do it with a couple different bands, but Animus is definitely
The way.
Yeah, the way.
I respect that. I was going to say vibes, but I just said vibes.
It was a good
again.
save. It was a
I
good
stopped
save.
myself, but then to say that I almost said vibes, still use the word vibes. So we're going to put a counter.
That's what I was gonna say.
It'll like ding every time.
That's just the name of the episode at this point.
It'll be numbered. So look in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You're going to see a number. That's how many times one of us can work that word into this episode.
Love it.
Okay, now it's a game.
yeah.
So
Okay, well, both of you need to catch up.
okay.
Should we keep a separate counter to see who totals the word? Let's see if we can work it in.
You already won. You
I was gonna say I don't know if we can catch up.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you can't. just make an extra effort to start dropping it in out of context. Say it 5 times in a row to score.
Vibes. Wait, I can't even say it fast like that.
Yeah.
So
It got stuck.
her and I share the editing. I do some parts, she does some parts. One of us will make a counter. Three numbers to
Beautiful.
counter how many times to say it.
Love it.
All right, so I love your musical aspect. It's like I said, the form of expression is, you know,
I feel like I'm not like especially like good or talented at it, to be 100% honest.
you don't have to be to love doing it.
But that's exactly it. Like I really don't care. Like I'll keep doing it till
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it anymore. And I know that like for this band, I do scream a lot, and I like that in some cases you can tell like where I am at emotionally, depending on what my scream sounds like. Like I can tell, and that's a whole vibe in itself. So
I totally get that. I was a screamer too for a long time, but there are different techniques you can use. There's different parts of your vocal cords that you can use to scream from. And when I first started screaming, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was using the right chords.
oh, see, that's good.
So when I felt like I didn't have as much control over it as I wanted to, I started using a different technique that uses a different part of your vocal cords. That was the wrong technique, but I preferred the way that it sounded. So I did that for like 2 years and fucking destroyed my voice. Ruined,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, they
So-
yell at me all the time for not actually training myself. But the one time I did like choke myself for a while to try to like feel what was happening.
Yeah.
And they were just like, what are you doing? Like, stop.
That sounds bad.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
do
not good.
Well, we haven't seen you live yet, but we will. I think that one opportunity we wanted to come to your show, it was like 7 hours away.
Yeah, that's too much
Yeah.
for to see me live.
Because like also another thing that sucks is like her and I are always busy on the weekends.
Yeah.
As videographers, we're generally shooting either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Especially like in the spring and the summer, so it's like hard to do anything on the weekends. I feel monopolized by my work in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. We miss a lot of cool shit because we're shooting. But we'll see one of these days.
I'll be around for a while, I think. Till I blow them out.
So, all right. So let's run it back to Lil Shop of Lilith
Okay.
and spirit technology
Okay.
and some of the things that you're capable of in terms of like your energy work, your ritual practices, and also I want to get into like the concept of like demonic entities.
Okay.
Some people call it demonic entities if you don't know anything or don't understand the difference. Could you maybe give us like an entry level description on like what the demonic sort of concept is, what those entities are, what their purpose is, how they communicate to us? Could you maybe like just give us a basic introductory?
So I can definitely give you from my experience in working with those. I will refer to them as like currents.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, like currents of energy. And for me, an entity is an entity is an entity. So like you can have a demonic entity, you can have an angelic entity, you
That's
can
right.
have an extraterrestrial entity.
That's
like
right.
as far as I'm concerned, they really are all the same, like not the same being, but the same like different vibration from us. And then they themselves have their different vibrations. So like a demonic vibration and an angelic vibration are not necessarily going to feel the same. And you may not psychologically respond to them in the same way. For me, I was always I did not work with a large variety of those entities until the last like year and a half. But I was always very drawn to Lilith as an entity. And like, that's like since a child. So while I never did a lot of deity work or like spirit work with different beings, I did about, I want to say like 3 years ago now, start reaching out to working with Lilith as an entity. And that was honestly when things kind of changed for me. I think that once you have the experience when you are able to feel the connection and like feel that change in your atmosphere, And when I say atmosphere, part of that atmosphere is, you know, your physical atmosphere surrounding you, but then that other part of your atmosphere is all mental, like it's all psychological. And people will have the conversation of, is it all in your head or is it like something external from you? And what I've definitely learned over the past couple of years is that it is both. It's always both in some way. It's part what you're creating and part what already exists in some form in the universe, and the way that you conceive it, or I should say perceive it, but also conceive, I guess, is dependent on your thought process going into it and like where you're coming from. So going off of that, if say you were working with an entity like Lilith and you have this monstrous image of her in your mind, you're scared, you're not sure of yourself, and you're going into a working with that energy and calling that energy, you're going to get something that is probably just going to feed into your fear. I can't tell you the number of times when I first started that I was scared because of, I think it was more fear because of being unsure of myself more than the entity. But I would literally be sure that I could see like this crouched over little person like in the corner of my room, my temple space, like where I was working. And it wasn't until actually Garrett, or our friend, was pretty much like, you know, you better like get yourself together or maybe you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And so that was it. Like from that point on, I was like, okay, I got this. That's fine. You have to go in with like that mindset. And I feel that although you can go into working with the entities and like respecting them and showing reverence, not like worship, but reverence, it doesn't necessarily, I was just having this conversation, mean that they're going to respect you back.
I see.
So there are different methods to working, whether it's like a goetic style or like Golden Dawn style, that for working with the entities, and it's not a like you're going to get pizza. And I think that's the problem right now is that right now it's so popular and it's so hashtag trending, hashtag demonic vibes, whatever. It's so like popular right now that people are like seeing all this stuff, and there's 20 million different books being published. And I'm not going to get started on my rant about the books.
Sure.
I also have a book problem, but people don't necessarily realize what they're going into because they're getting it from that like trending standpoint, that TikTok like perspective. And then, you know, it can have effects on you. Like if you work with energy, you know, that energy can have effects on you down the road that you may not realize right away. And then, you know, down the road, you've been sticking your hand in this like open electrical socket without any sort of like boundary, any sort of protection, any sort of true base knowledge behind it, and you wonder why your life's falling apart or your health is falling apart.
That's right.
And a lot of people just aren't, if you're looking or listening or both, pay attention to that. know what you're doing. Don't just watch a 5-second like video clip and be like, oh, you know,
I can summon this.
yeah, use a red candle to work with Lilith, and then you're off on the, no, don't do that. But I think that it gets coming back to just entities are entities, period. So if you're working with them, you know, just having that knowledge, doing the research, doing the groundwork for it. Don't just, you know, spend 5 minutes and be like, oh, I'm going to go jump into this and then wonder why it doesn't go well or why nothing happens. Because that's the other thing is like, you know, people will be like, well, nothing happened. Well, yeah, because you don't meditate, you don't do any sort of breath work, you don't do any of
the right place, you don't have the tools.
Right. You just like did and trust me, because I've done it. I could tell you some funny and embarrassing for me stories on not doing it the right way. But yeah, if you don't go into it with the right mindset, you're not going to get what it is that you want out of it.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. And that is good to hear from somebody who has been practicing for a long time. So I like how you mentioned before that they're just currents. So in a sense, I like to look at energy in a quantum way. So we're talking about like waveforms. Energy moves in waveforms, nodes, dips and spikes, singularity points. And so a lot of people, if you follow my channel, you know that I'm into extraterrestrials. I work with ETs and extra dimensional beings, which is actually, in a sense, what a demonic entity could be, is extra dimensional. And I like that you use the word currents. So some people may ask, okay, well, you're communicating to spirit. If you're in the third density, fourth dimensional space, you're a physical being, and you're communicating to a spirit entity that's, in a sense, for lack of a better definition, non-physical to us, but still very real, still exists in its own space. So you asked a really good question at my ET lecture. So from a physical 3D perspective, are there aliens flying around in space? Yes. Is there life on other planets? Yes. We talk about archangels. We talk about angels. We talk about, there's voodoo gods and goddesses, all kinds of like different symbolic entities. Like if you're into the old OG channeling, then you've probably heard of Seth. You've probably heard of Abraham Hicks. You've probably heard of like Bashar. Those are like collectives. Not even one particular entity, but a collective of entities that has one term that we're communicating to in channeling state. But in a sense, what I'm getting at, currents, is it's all quantum probable energy when it comes outside of the realm of our 3D senses. So you asked me, could demonic entities be the same as extraterrestrials, or are they interchangeable? Are they the same thing? And I would say, to a degree, when we're getting to a certain level of consciousness, absolutely yes. Because we're down here and we're focused on our 3D senses. Those entities are in another plane, another realm of existence, but they still have physical 3D bodies like we do. Just they're separated through frequency, through currents. I used an analogy to an old friend of mine yesterday who had a really cosmic experience where he was walking his dogs and he saw a portal open up in front of him and then lost time. Lost time. So he and I got into a deep discussion about that, and he's new to these concepts that we're discussing. So I used the analogy, when we separate densities and dimensions, I use the analogy of a radio tuner. Let's say, for example, you have a physical radio that only has 12 stations. And right now we're on the third station. But there is another world that exists on channel 4 and channel 5 and channel 6 up to 12. And that each of those different realms have their own total world, their own entities, their own beings, their own consciousness, their own physics works different there. And then 5 and 6 has their own as well. And the way that this radio tuner works is, instead of maybe tuning, if we're on 3 and jumping to 4 altogether, the way that it works is all of the radio stations can perceive the other stations beneath them. So if you are in the 4th density radio station, you can perceive all 3D beings, that's us, and all 2D beings and 1D beings. If you are on the 5th density, you can perceive the 4D entities and beings and consciousness and civilizations that exist in that frequency all the way down. Don't ask me why. I don't particularly understand the rules, but for some reason, we can't see up. Okay? So what that means is, without deep quantum meditations or channeling or certain divination tools, you cannot communicate directly or see or interact with the 4th density being who's on channel 4 and 5. Yes. Unless there's some type of technology intervening, or you know how to deeply quantum meditate, astral projection, remote viewing, channeling. That's spirit tech that you can use to contact these higher frequencies. But they can all perceive us. So in a sense, they've got their own reality around them, which we know nothing about, the type of fucking shit you see in movies. And then they also have ours laid on top of us that they can perceive. But their ability to interact with us is governed by certain rules of physics. So with these currents, I think that ET consciousness, angelic consciousness, anything that's considered 4th density and up is just a current of probable energy, quantum energy, that from where we're coming from, with our own belief structures, our own level of consciousness, our own vibrational state, is what creates the entity on the other side and
Yes.
spirit that we interact with. So people have a lot of misconceptions about demons and demonics or archangels or extraterrestrials. If you're coming from a fear-based place that you don't know what that whole world means, you can manifest for yourself negative experiences that will affirm that for you, and then those creatures are scary and harmful and dangerous to you. If you're coming from a more empowered state where you understand how reality works and you've done the training, you've done the work, you've done the investigation, you've spent the time, you know how to meditate, you're coming from an empowered place where you're safe and you're protected, you can communicate to these entities, these currents, these aspects of your own consciousness reflecting back to you. You can have a positive experience. These beings can actually help you. They can teach you things. They can give you more tools that you can use to navigate your reality better, because they're coming from the fourth density, the fifth density, the sixth density, the 10th density, where they've gone through a lot of these experiences, or they have physics and their version of reality is so different that they know how they can teach us to better navigate our own. So you can have a fear-based, disempowered perspective of this type of work and these beings where they exist, or you can have a very empowered, positive, expansive one, but it's dictated by you and where you're coming from.
Yeah, I would
you
agree. I think you have a huge, like, where you're coming from has a huge impact on the experience that you will have or not have. I would say that I think that there are some entities that just there's not like a reason that I would like call them to work with them, because like they are created from more malicious states.
Intent.
Yeah. So it's like if this guy's like only, goal is discord and like I'm like, well, I don't really need like all of that, but
Sure.
I think that honestly, and by no means am I saying that any of these entities are like humans or have human personas, but just like human beings, they have different personas and different reactions and reactatory states. And that's something to keep in mind when going into these workings. And also definitely like the way that you are prepared to go into it and your state of mind, but don't go into it all like egotistical and like thinking that you're, this badass. Can I even swear?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I cuss.
Okay. Yeah, but if you go into it like thinking that, then you're probably going to get messed up. Like it's just, because then they're just going to be like, well, who the hell do you think you are? And like
It's, it's almost in a sense, for lack of a better term, being sloppy about your intentions, being sloppy about your interests and your actions. And, you could equate it to experimenting with drugs, or having a bad experience. You're not coming from the right place, the right intention to experiment with like sacred plant medicine, psychedelics and things like that. People use them as a party tool, but they're actually consciousness tools that if you're coming from the right place before you work with that energy, it changes the experience. I don't know why I feel called to mention this on the show as well, but a lot of people ask me, particularly because I'm that dude, what I think about 5G. Is it harmful? Is it dangerous? Okay, well, here's what I can tell you. It can be either side. It's who is controlling it, who's operating it, and what their intentions are that may or may not have harmful or positive effects. I think that 5G can be dangerous. I think it can be lethal. I think it can be toxic to the human body. But with the right person who's going into it with the right intentions, you can tune the frequencies that 5G is capable of putting out to be healing, medicinal frequencies that kill pathogens and viruses and bacterias and cancer cells. It can be tuned, but it's a matter of like where you're coming from and who's using the tool. So if you ever want to work with a spirit, let's just say spirit, you want to work with spirit outside of our reality, where are you coming from with your intentions? So, and that dictates a lot about.
Do you have any recommendations for somebody who is interested in this but doesn't want to have to sort through like so many, like you said, books and like, do you have any recommendations on where to start When the study?
Piles and piles of books. Yeah, you can come see me at the shop. No. I put book lists up through the shop, so they are available there. I recommend not just going with like the immediate like demonology, ology, yeah. Not just looking there, like looking elsewhere and going back to older texts, being able to see. This was a conversation earlier too, but a lot of times it's like we're so advanced and we're so like forward thinking, and like then it's like, well, then we don't need all the ways that they used to do it back in the day. We can like skip.
Sure.
And I don't think that you can skip. So I would honestly, I would recommend having a really good meditation practice and working through that first.
I agree.
I don't think that you are going to have any of the results that you think you are going to have if you can't do that. And I can say that from like experience, because when you go into those practices, then is it just your mind? You're tricking yourself into this happening,
you have to learn
and
to
it's
trust
all,
yourself.
yeah, it's all right. And a lot of times, like people are unable to find that like self-trust. And then it's that lack of trust that ends up not having good experiences. So I would definitely go like, I really like Freda Barabbas and Jason Miller are two names that I'm really big on their books right now. And I would recommend looking into their workings even prior to trying to do any sort of demonic workings, because they have a lot of good like foundations. And I think the foundation is really important. I'm trying to think. I don't know why I can't even give you like my
What about divination
favorite
tools?
in general.
In general sense. I mean, are there any physical items or entry-level exercises that you've experimented with in the past that you know are effective to making some sort of communication or contact happen, as long as the person's coming from the right state of being before they do this? Before you start, I can tell you that back to meditation. Point number 1, start there. I am a deep quantum meditator. I know how to consciously shift my brainwave frequencies. I can alter my own state of being through the power of like intention and breath. And so when I do what's called as channeling, which is another tool, I communicate to extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional consciousness through my own physical vessel. I turn my body into like a radio tower. And that's done all through meditation and changing your brainwave frequencies without any sort of physical tools. But that's what I want to talk about, the physical tools. What can you tell us about that?
I was just going to say, I got the chance to experience that channeling, and that was really cool. Well,
Yeah.
with you, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's right.
But I'm big on tarot cards.
Tarot.
I really like.
That is a
I like
divination
the
tool.
cards. They've always been like what I've been drawn to. I think that a lot of times people can get overwhelmed by them because it is such a huge system, and it has so many different like ways that you can read and different aspects that you can go off of them. But I recommend getting a deck and then just having it, like keeping it close to you, sitting with it, just shuffling. I don't even care if you do a reading. If you're just sitting there like shuffling, start paying attention to what may fall out, and like tracking that. I tell people all the time to do like a pull a card type thing a day, and then study that card, meditate with that card, see what it says to you, bases what the meaning is. And if the tarot is too non-intrusive, if it's seems too much, then you could always start with like an oracle deck, because there's a million different ones of those that then have their own meanings to them. And then I really like pendulums.
Pendulum work. That's where I started.
Yeah. So I had a pendulum for the longest time, never really used it. And then there was something in my house, and I was trying to like communicate with it, and it was not really having it. But I picked up the pendulum, and it loved that. So you can use that like to speak with, like the dead, like spirits.
Yes or no questions.
Yeah, or you can use it for yourself. And what I like to do with it, I have separate ones for the entities that I work with, but I also have one with a board that then when I'm doing sessions with people and I can do the yes, no, maybe like ask a rephrase. When they have loved ones coming through or they have their spirit team coming through, even if I'm not entirely sure who it is, although we usually have a pretty good idea, but I can use that board for them as far as they can ask their direct questions. But the pendulums are another thing to just, I tell people just to like carry them, keep them close to your skin, allow it to soak in your energy, sleep with them, and then just sit and like hold it over your hand and see what your body's telling you. I use them when I do energy work a lot on people to check the chakras and the different energy centers. And they haven't let me down yet, so I like them.
I vibe with that. I absolutely do.
Oh, man, I missed my chance.
I only said that so that you guys don't forget to start ramming it in, because like, I have a deck. Lauren's got 2 decks. You know, we have them in the house. You know, I can use anything that swings as a pendulum at this point. There's candles, there's crystals, there's, you know, working with the elements. You know, it's all kinds of alchemical exercises that are very easy that you can do with fire, wind, you know, earth, you know, lots of stuff. And so I'm passionate about people who want to communicate to spirit. I think it's been one of like my biggest passions in terms of teaching it and doing it myself, because there is more than this. There's more than the physical reality. There's so much more. We're only an aspect of that version of, you know, creation and source, and to explore the other realms, the other realities, the other densities and dimensions. I think there's a lot that people can learn from going there and doing, using divination tools and using spirit technology to connect to spirit, to empower themselves and grow.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the main reasons that I even really went down that path in the first place. Well, I mean, when I was a teenager, I went down it because I was like, I'm going to, you know, be super cool. And also this feels familiar. And yeah, but it's the knowledge that it's a thirst for knowledge that especially in the past, like 6 years or so, has like increased so much from the past, like, you know, 20 that I may have been practicing, and we'll say that in quotations because it was like hardly practicing compared to what I'm doing now. But I think that a lot of times people get frightened by the fact that there is so much other information out there and so many other beings out
around
there.
us, all around us,
because it's overwhelming. And
Mm-hmm.
so it makes people question. But that's what we like about the shop, is that, you know, you guys got to see for your lecture and everything. It's just the people that come in there are the ones that just, they're hungry, they're knowledge hungry. And the fact that that's what it's turned into, based like what we started with a couple oils and stuff, is just, that's really cool to me, to see that thirst for knowledge in like a tiny Western PA town.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I mean, my community that is interested in my practices and my beliefs is all online. I have no one really in person that I work with or interact with, in a sense. You know, you have a physical place that people can feel safe coming to, and you know, whether it's just like getting to know you and your skills and your services, hiring you, but to also buy the tools that you sell as well. In a sense, I think that's really cool, because all I have is just like my knowledge. And so I do like, I live stream, you know, I do these fun little videos on YouTube and I make my films, but I don't have like that community in a sense that you have. And while we're on that topic, do you by chance offer any of your services online? Can people book you through like a Zoom or a Skype session, or is it only in person at your store?
No, you can get readings online, and the counseling is also available online. I don't do any energy work online because my energy work over the last year and the different following of intuitive pulls is much more hands-on than it was. So I need that energy in the space with me.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, you can get the services online. I do workings for hire and have a very good success rate with that.
Awesome.
So far. So you can order that too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't have a lot of products or services, but one of them that I do have only exists because you helped us finish it. The Spirit Contact
The commercial.
Protocol. No, and you know, as we sort of come to a close here, we get close to completing the episode. I do want to talk about something a little strange, but also leverage it in an empowering way. You know, you and I are both people who are very open to alternative information, alternative news, alternative media, and alternative meanings for things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about spirit technology and all of the skills and abilities you have as well. So we have a lot of fucking weird vibes happening on planet Earth. You know?
The vibe is off.
The vibe is off. And whether you want to talk about the chemical spills, you want to talk about the weirdo earthquakes, you want to talk about the strange weather, and whatever the fuck climate change is, and viruses, and all of these things that are seemingly happening to us and immediately dangerous and toxic and harmful. Well, when I talk about spirit tech or using divination tools, you have to understand this one thing. Physical reality is quantum probable energy before it is matter. Okay? It's all ether that manifests into physical reality. And it happens quantumly fast. It happens what's called, actually the term is Planck time, is the speed that light can travel the shortest distance. That's how fast physical reality is created in a series of snapshots. The same way that video is recorded. Video is a series of sequence of still images stitched together in a container, but they're just photos. Did you know that our physical reality is created the same way in a series of snapshots? And the speed of physical reality is Planck time. So everything that manifests in our reality is in some way, shape, or form a projection of our own consciousness. And this can be dictated by our belief structures, our vibrational state, our frequency, our energy. And then, so there's a single timeline, which is your timeline. That's your version of reality. Then there's one that she makes, and there's one that I make. And then there's collective ones. So there's a fourth version of reality that is all three of our perspectives to make this continuity that we're sitting in now. But now there's a massive one that's the whole planet. And our collective vibration, our collective consciousness, our collective frequency can create positive and negative things in terms of weather, in terms of natural disasters, in terms of positive things that happen. But then those things can also be manipulated. And that same creational energy that we're coming from can be hijacked and used against us like a weapon, so that our creative abilities as deliberate creators, that's what I like to refer to myself as, a deliberate creator. That's old Abraham Hicks. That energy that we use to create physical matter from the ether at the speed of Planck time can sort of, in a sense, be hijacked, and then our creative abilities can be used to create and manifest the circumstances at the will of others. And that's partly what I believe is happening on our planet Earth at this time. I don't believe that climate change is an innocent, terrible thing happening. I don't believe that the earthquakes and the weather and the chemical explosions are act of God. In a sense, I don't think that they're just a terrible tragedy that happens for no fucking innocent reason.
4 trains.
4 fucking trains in 1 week, and then a bunch of chemical plants on the East Coast, Turkey. Okay, the earthquake in Turkey, COVID, you know,
Euphrates,
everything, right? You're with me on this.
I'm with you.
But what I'm saying is that it all starts on an energy level.
Yes.
And then it manifests into 3D matter. And 3D matter can be circumstances, not just people, place, and things, but actions.
Correct.
That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with our consciousness creating our reality, and then our energy being manipulated, hijacked, and used against us on a global scale. So when we talk about energy work and divination tools, and we talk about spirit technology, that's going to the source material first, the raw data, the raw quantum energy that doesn't exist positive or negative, it's neutral. That we, as deliberate creators, or somebody who has the skills you have, with the tools you know how to use, or someone who knows how to create matter through the power of your belief. And the quantum energy momentum behind your imagination is a real thing. That's what we're doing. And that's what we're talking about on today's episode. We didn't have a plan for what to discuss, but we wanted to hang out and vibe. And I feel like this is sort of like, there's still time. Just work it in. Cut me off. This, I think, is what the episode is about. It's about creating your own reality from an energetic place of being, whether you're working with currents and entities in spirit, and they are your permission slip. They are your power tool that helps you heal from the toxicity of our planet, heal from viruses, or whether we're using quantum energy and quantum meditations to create a version of reality that we better prefer using the law of attraction, which is a tool.
I was going to say, on the same vibratory, does that count as vibe?
Yes.
Level?
Any vibe, there's still time.
That's what I try to tell people when they ask about like what is magic and how does it work, and like we talk about this in the class, and I won't go into the whole thing, but the idea is just like you were saying earlier, in order for it to exist here, it has to exist there
first.
So you have to
At the same time.
Correct. So that will, that focused will, has to go, I always just gesture to them, but it has to go out into the ether, out into the astral, out into however you want to say it. And then it has to grow there like a little fetus.
Crystallize.
Yeah.
Like a 3D printer.
Yes, exactly.
It needs material.
Before it can come and return back to this physical location. And so people will wonder, like, well, if I ask for, A and then I ask for B, like, why does B happen faster than A happened? Well, because you were already on a closer timeline.
That's right.
With all of it lining up for that to happen. And I think people have a hard time understanding that or reflecting on that. Like, they know that they can do the working, but you need to know like where you're actually like sending the working and how it's working on like a quantum level.
That's right.
You're way more versed than I am on that, but it's the same like concept. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with the rest of that.
Thank you for saying that, for affirming that, because it feels good to see another person that understands the creational process, the energy work behind the physical work. And I'm telling you guys that to empower you. Yeah. Maybe there's a cabal, maybe there's an Illuminati, maybe there's secret societies that are doing terrible things to our civilization, but they are still within our version of reality that we're creating. And they only have as much power as we give them. And we can use our divination tools and our energy work and our manifesting abilities as deliberate creators to shift reality in a way that's more benefiting to us. We can heal our bodies, we can heal our minds, we can help the planet, we can help each other, but we have to understand how it works on a quantum energy level first. Remember I talked about the radio? We want to tap into those other densities, those other radio stations. And then it trickles down and it manifests here in physical reality. And so that's my little speech today. What would you like to add, Lauren? What do you think? She's got her own awesome...
Just say the word vibe.
Vibe.
She
vibe.
Has her own manifesting tools as well, like her own law of attraction style reality mechanics that she does. And we actually have ones that we do together as a couple where we'll focus our streams of consciousness deliberately on a particular goal or a particular outcome, and they manifest like within days or the same day. We can like
that's awesome.
Create things.
It's a fun practice to do for sure. Yeah,
we have 100% success rate if her and I team up and say, okay, what do we want to create? What do we want to experience? What do we want to do? What do we need changed? And her and I will collectively focus like an energy beam, that energy, and it comes. So imagine if we could do that
as a group,
to clean up the chemical spills and the earthquakes, and to take out the fucking garbage of like all of the secret societies living in military bases underground. Who knows? But we're in control.
We are in control, and I think that was like it's will, right? It's always like you're going up against somebody else's will.
That's right.
You and somebody else, and whoever has a stronger will is the one that's coming out on top. I don't care what the situation is. And that's what magic is. That's what spell work is. That's what law of attraction is. That's all of it comes down to that. But it's so hard to get people to see that at a collective level when you are surrounded by nothing but be afraid, stay in line,
That's right.
Watch everything falling apart around you and then feel helpless. Like
Be disempowered, be in
right,
fear,
right.
be angry.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I'm not quite positive enough or like have a positive enough persona that I can be like, oh, we can all like come together and make this happen. I'm like, no, we're just gonna watch like shit fall apart. But if all of you would just get it together with us.
It's the dominant frequency principle. Whatever the dominant measurable output
Correct.
is will sway it in that direction,
Yeah.
positive or negative. Get back to atoms.
Yeah.
You've got a fucking neutral. You have what's in an atom? It's
Electron,
Okay.
proton.
And a proton. Thank you. Look at that. We all
We're
had one.
scientists. That
We
was a vibe.
all brought
that
an
was fun.
element
That
to
was
the table.
That was a terrible joke.
Where are the vibes? But that's what an atom is. It's neutral until you sway in a certain direction. That's a dominant frequency principle. And I like what you said. So let me just say one thing and then we'll wrap it up. About the dominant frequency principle
Okay.
and atoms. Well, they're like very, very early stages of matter that become more solid objects that we govern with our will, with our intention. You said that how do we get the collective, how do we get everybody on that dominant frequency of positive timelines of like the fucking World War III that is attacking our civilization now? How do we get everybody on the same frequency to fix that or turn it around or vibrate higher? And I think it starts with each individual that makes up the whole. So what I would say is it can feel overwhelming, because it does for me, to get everybody on the same page and paragraph to fix this on an energetic level so that the physical will change too. But be the dominant frequency first with your own output, and then little by little, like water trickling through the cracks, the physics have to bend to your will.
Yes.
Even if it's on a small scale, little by little at first. But if you're a total timeline, like you're not on a timeline, you are a total version of reality. And everybody is our own total version. Like I like to use the analogy of a snow globe. We're all in our own little snow globe. And when we interact with another person, it's just those snow globes touching the littlest bit to create a continuity between the two.
I like that.
So you can be the dominant frequency first and make matter and reality bend to your will. And hopefully, before if there is such a thing as too late, the direction that we're going in our society, it's fucking grim with our planet. But maybe we can turn this around. We can salvage the timeline, the totalitarian tiptoe into fucking nightmares. Okay, I don't know, guys. What do you think about that?
I think that's the whole purpose behind what we're doing at the shop. It's own your power. Like that's our thing. Because people come feeling powerless, and I watch them leave getting some of their power back. And if we could just do that on like a global level.
That's right.
So anyway, we'll set up something. We'll set up a ritual for this specifically now.
intent.
Yep, a collective intent ritual.
I'm there.
I just added that to my to-do
That's
list.
on
So
the-
when I
we'll
bitch
be
about
there.
it later, remind me that it was my idea.
So if you're listening or you're watching this episode, we are going to be the way showers. We're making an effort to be the dominant frequency and turn this around at the very least. Not for our lack of trying, We'll fucking go down with the ship,
Yep.
So that's it. That's all I got to say. I spoke my piece. What do you think?
Vibe.
And, was there anything else that you kind of wanted to express or say, like talk?
I don't think so. Now my head's already like spiraling on like
know.
what we're gonna do for this.
How are we gonna-
Yeah, how are we gonna do this?
Maybe
I
you
feel
and
like we
me
need a
can-
mountain, like a hill. Can we have a
Yeah.
mountain?
Yeah.
Butler's in a valley. I'm sure I can find like a mountain peak.
We should organize like one of your events. It's a Lil Shop of Lilith official, but maybe you and me can co-host. All three of us can co-host some maybe like collective healing
Yeah.
of planet Earth or expressing the dominant frequency. I mean, your audience will see this episode. Maybe they'll know where we're coming from when we want to make an event like this.
Oh yeah,
for in the
I'm
spring
sure they're already.
when it warms up. And if you want to take it outside, it can maybe be an outdoor one. Or
Yeah.
something to connect to nature, earth, or something, which needs a lot of healing. So something to think about.
We're on it. We're doing it.
You know? All right, I'm with that. So then we will go ahead and wrap it up because, I mean, lunch is... Checking my watch.
I know my stomach was growling.
Mine too.
I hope the microphone picked it up.
Mine was like, crab rangoon. So that is it for That's So Meta with our special guest, Natasha.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming.
for being here. And this is a lot of fun to talk to you, and I feel motivated and charged to do more. You know, I have my mission statement, my little star seed mission, but I think that, you know, we can all do a little bit more. You know, so I feel empowered, and if anybody is interested in, you know, working with her and her energy services, you can contact her through the information here in the description of the episode. And that's so meta.
And such a vibe.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.